Praise the Lord, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I hope everyone is doing fine and wonderful today. Um, it's a beautiful afternoon. I kind of got my shades closed, being that I go to work at night. I work at night, so in the daytime, I try to keep my light down a little bit. So I got this light in the corner, kind of dim, just so I have a little bit of light. But how's everyone doing today? I hope everybody's doing good today. We're going to continue on into our reading of How to Argue-Proof Your Relationships with by the author Mark Webb, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. This book so far um, has improved relationships for couples, as well as marriages and relationships. And the techniques found in this book are very effective, and they they work in your relationships, as well as you're open and as long as you're open and receptive to the techniques. All it takes is one of you reading and to apply these techniques for your relationship um, to come together and come back to a base. I have found this beneficial in my relationship with my fiance. So, and an update with that, we came out of a rough path and now we are more closer. But there are still a few things that, excuse me, there are still a few things that we have to continue to work on. One thing about improving the relationship is um, when you do the technique, when you work on a technique or change something or anything in a relationship, once you see that change coming into play, oh, excuse me, don't stop there. Do not stop there. Continue to improve. Continue to form the technique. Continue to go forward with the technique. Don't stop there and don't get complacent. So, um, let's go ahead and go into our reading. Chapter 6. The title of chapter 6 is, I'm going to lean over this way a little bit. Hopefully you can hear me a little better. The So, guys, you get comfortable too. So, the the title of chapter 6 is How to Push the Reset Button on Your Relationship. So, in this chapter, oh, excuse me, I'm yawning so much. In this chapter, it's talking about pushing the reset button, going back to the baseline, going back to where you first started, getting back to that place where you were happy, where you were best of friends, to where you were in love, where you had love, to where you were the most strongest at your strongest point. Okay? So, crucial to this process of learning how to argue proof a relationship is the 80-20 rule. This is a technique that I developed years ago to help me and the clients that I serve to keep things in their proper perspective. I first heard of the term 80-20 rule in a management book. I took the term and adapted the definition to fit relationships. This is a foundational piece in the process of putting an end to your cycle of arguing and bickering. So, if you think about it, if he took this from a management book, in which I've studied project management, and I know the 80-20 rule, and you apply this to your relationships, you would definitely see a better increase, as well as management sees a better increase. So it's pretty neat to incorporate these things. Excuse me. It will provide you with amazing results the moment you start applying to straightforward meaning and common sense principles. Practical techniques work best because they make sense to us. My clients love this technique because it's straightforward, feasible, and full of common sense. The 80-20 rule is simply this. As long as your partner is doing right 80% of the time, let the remaining 20% slide. Let me say it again. As long as your partner is right, doing right 80% of the time, allow 20%, allow that 20% of where they're not doing right, allow that to slide. As I mentioned in the earlier chapter, when we started having problems in our relationship, we raised the bar of expectation to 100%. No room exists for error with a mindset like that. So at 100%, you don't have a room for error. You really can't do nothing. Everything you got to do is right. You can't burp. You can't expel wind. You can't blink wrong. You can't yawn wrong. Excuse me. I already be wrong because I'm yawning. But in 100%, you can't. There's no room for no mistakes. You got to be able to make mistakes. And just as I was listening to Jimmy Evans in Marriage Today, that you know, wives, women, you have to let your husbands or your boyfriend or fiance, you have to let him make mistakes. You have to let him make mistakes. Don't correct them. Come to him and bring forth the issue, the concern, but don't be the intermediary. Let Jesus do it. You go to him and tell him what's wrong. Then you go to your prayer closet and you take care of it in your prayer closet, and you just go from there. Tension is elevated because you are being called out on every minor infraction. The 80-20 rule brings out a spirit of truth to it. It takes into account that you and your partner will occasionally make mistakes, which is true. It factors in the elements that tend to derail a couple into an argument. It lets you and your partner both be human. And that's the thing with today, that we have, oh God, excuse me. We have so many different things that are keeping us from being human. We have so many different pieces of technology. We have our computers, our tablets, our cell phones, our laptops, our TVs, our video games. We have all these different things that are keeping us from being human. But with all of these different devices and things, and you know, we're our interaction with one another is diminishing. Communication is diminishing because we're spending more time on social media, on shopping sites, on different websites, links, um, different what do you call them, things like Kik, Snapchat, and stuff like that. We're spending more time on there versus having to sit down and have more time with our other. So there's where we find our complications. Okay. A better perspective of your partner's behavior and the relationship in general can be properly maintained with the 80-20 rule. It works like this. Suppose you and your partner have had a good week, a good weekend, or perhaps a good hour. Some couples I work with are happy to just have a good hour to start with. Then suppose your partner says or does something that you do not like. Perhaps they say something negative or they do something annoying. I don't mean major incidents like having an affair or being abusive. If you or your partner have had a good weekend, or hour, then let this infraction slide. Don't acknowledge it in any way. Now that now that is a great, you know, that is a great technique. That if it's something that annoys you, don't say nothing. Just let it slide. Just let it go. Just let it go. That's just like our ministries. Let go and let God. Just live life. Let go and let God. See, here we're giving you a little life. So it's a resource. But let it slide. Let it go. You know, if your other is kind of silly and says something out of the way or whatnot, just let it go. Just let it slide. You know, um, that's something that we need to look at. Just let it slide. Let it slide. The past on over. The past on over. That's their characteristic. That's their personality, their trait. Let it slide. That's what's gonna make them. That's what's gonna make you more attracted to them is because of those things that are annoying you. Believe it or not. Immediately after your partner says or does something that you do not like, you instantly feel hurt, aggravated, or frustrated. Actually, you will feel all of the hurt, aggravating, and frustration that you have accumulated during the course of your relationship. Um, all of it comes back. This recall of the past emotions can be overwhelming and very discouraging. Even after you learn the strategies of this book, you will still have to manage your emotions. So imagine a couple has been together for 10 years and the wife says something inappropriate, perhaps criticism of some sort. As soon as she criticizes him, 10 years worth of the husband's hurt, aggravation, and frustration hits him. It hits hard. It hits real hard. It hits very hard. 10 years later, if the wife says or does something that is negative, the husband will experience 20 years of hurt, aggravation, and frustration. 20 years. The hurt, aggravation, and frustration accumulated is based on how long the couple have been together. No one ever tells us about this process, but it is one that will endure. That is why you must have strategies to prevent yourself, and your relationship from falling into these common traps. Feelings will always be triggered when someone offends us in any manner. It is what you do in that next second after the feelings hit you that is crucial. I'm training you to develop certain mental and emotional muscles so that when the feelings hit you, you have positive options to pursue. If you do not develop these positive options, your feelings will propel you into negative thoughts and behaviors that are counterproductive to your relationship. So, once again, the process of your feelings getting hurt, or both of your feelings aggravated or frustrated, will always persist. But if you are learning to redirect your thoughts and responses towards positive outcomes. So here, you have to have a technique in place. You have to develop a positive. You have to develop the muscles, strengthen your muscles, your mental muscles, and your emotional muscles. Now that's hard for some. Now with my fiance, it's hard because her emotional muscles are very, very, very weak. Her mental muscles, they're she's strong in her mental muscles, but they also have their slide and so forth. But and I as well. I as well. You know, both of them are strong. Both of mine are strong. So, I continue to find ways to strengthen them even more. Okay. But you have to have positive options. Positive options when all of this stuff hits you. You have to have positive options. Okay? You're learning to redirect your thoughts and responses toward positive options. So that's what you will be trying to do or working towards. Let me reinforce this concept. Here's how you apply the 80-20 rule. Your partner says or does something you do not like. Your feelings of hurt, frustration, and aggravation hit you. But instead of getting upset, you tell yourself the following. Even though I do not like what they just said or did, I'm not going to say or do anything. Not going to pout, unplug, or pitch a fit. I'm not going to roll my eyes or make any negative sound effects. And that is the simplicity of having um, a positive option. Because you're telling yourself, I'm not going to do that. I ain't going to do that. No, I ain't going to do that. I won't. I feel like this and I feel like that, but I'm not gonna feel like that. I ain't gonna feel like that. I'm not gonna feel like that. I'm not gonna do that. Not. This is not the time to be doing that. And there is no time to be doing that. So I ain't gonna do that. It ain't even worth it. Yeah, it ain't worth me doing it, and it ain't worth the argument that comes behind it. So I'm not gonna do it. In your head, you want to keep repeating yourself 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. Don't walk around the house yelling 80-20, 80-20. I do not want you to scare your children or your neighbors. You have to say it 50 times, maybe 100. That's how many times you may have to say it, 50 times to 100. The goal is to say it until your feelings pass and you feel more in control of yourself. Practice will make this natural part of who you are. Remind yourself of this rule even when you are not upset. So you don't have to just be upset to try to remember this rule. You can remember this rule when you're not upset. So when you're at your most calmest, when you're at your most patientest, when you're at your most tranquil and peacefulness, repeat to yourself. Just start. I'll say start chanting to yourself 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. And it'll everything will begin to set in. Redirect your feelings and you will experience a greater sense of calm and confidence. Don't we all want that? Me too. I'm not asking you to ignore your feelings, but rather focus on learning to exercise a greater level of restraint. Restraint. To hold yourself back from the responses of those emotions and of those feelings. Keeping yourself from responding to the impulses that are nudging you to push to the to falling into that response to the feelings or the impulse of the feelings. Um, I'm going to help you develop positive mindsets that will make sure your thoughts are being productive. Ignoring your feelings sets you up to holding on to resentment. We don't want to hold on to resentment. We don't want to hold on to resentment. So, holding resentment towards your partner will kill your relationship. So, if you're holding on to resentment, if you're holding on to anything against your partner, that's going to kill your relationship. Your relationship is going to ultimately die. If you hold on to the bitterness and the resentment, things that you dislike strongly with the passion. If you hold on to that, it's like holding on to a grudge. It's gonna like kill off your friendship. It's gonna kill off your relationship. It's gonna kill off everything that your partner, you know, it's gonna kill off everything. So we got to get that off. Holding resentment towards your partner will kill your relationship. I'm not asking you to suppress your feelings. You are learning to exercise choices in your responses towards your partner. This technique has the power to be transformed for you and your relationship. You are not just keeping your mouth shut. So here you are not just keeping your mouth shut. That never works. That never works. Even the toughest people eventually will crack and vent their feelings. You are learning to think more constructive thoughts. Well, you are learning to think more constructive thoughts. This development will help you in all the aspects of your life in terms of relating to people in a positive fashion. So not only does it help you with your partner, with your husband, with your boyfriend or fiance, but it helps you with just other people in general, okay, in a positive fashion. Improvement, ooh, especially coworkers. So that that itself can go into a multiple market of different people, categories of people and places. Improvement in the relationship is what you are after. Your mission is to return to the baseline. The goal is not to openly express your upset feelings. The goal is not to be able to say whatever you are thinking. So that's the goal, is not to be able to say anything, everything that you're thinking. So, and my fiance has a hard time doing that, because if she gets into her emotions, her feelings, whatever goes through her mind comes right on out. She ain't thinking about it, and it does damage. That does a lot of damage, you know, because everything that she's saying is it's just coming out. It's just coming out. It's just coming out. But she's not at that time. Uh, she's not understanding that you know it's actually hurting. It's actually hurting me. It might not be hurting me through her eyes, because she's getting out her feelings and venting out her feelings, but she's not understanding about that. With me being quiet and hearing all of it and it soaking into me, is where that can turn into resentment. But I don't want it to turn into resentment, and to digest all this and things like that. It's not healthy, for the relationship, and it can eventually kill the relationship. The mission is always about maintaining and growing the baseline of your relationship. Your level of connection is more important than your feelings. Your feelings can lie to you. Do not let your feelings dictate what you do. And again, I will say, I will say, I will say this one more time. Your feelings can lie to you. So if you didn't hear me, I'm going to say it again. Your feelings can lie to you. Your feelings will be dishonest to you. Your feelings will tell you a story, as we would say when we was kids. They're gonna tell you a story. So do not, do not let your feelings dictate what you do. Okay? You must learn to do the right thing regardless of how you feel. You know how to treat your partner with respect. You must always strive to treat your partner with love and respect, regardless of how you feel. If you are away from the baseline, then the mission is to reset the baseline. Be very careful not to stray from this mission. Those who let their feelings dictate what they say or do struggle continuously with the ups and the downs of a frustrating relationship. Maintaining focus and use of the 80-20 rule for keeping proper perspective. So maintain it. Maintain your focus and maintain the use of the 80-20 rule. Keep proper perspective to have the proper outlook of your relationship. Most therapists don't teach this to their clients. They actually encourage opposites of what I'm saying. They tell their clients to express their feelings. This does more harm than good, because a lot of what the client is feeling is a result of a provocation that isn't personal, because it feels personal. The response is an attack or a defense that isn't necessary and could have been handled more constructively. Dan was a workaholic. He burned the candle at both ends by working two jobs. He grew only with bare necessities. He grew up with only the bare necessities and wanted his two sons to have a better childhood than his. He loved his wives and sons. He loved his life, but he regularly was grumpy and irritable. When he and his wife Trisha went to therapy because of increasing arguing, the therapist encouraged him to vent his feelings of stress and frustration. He did, and it pushed him and Trisha even further apart. After 10 sessions with the therapist, they came to see me. I pointed out the obvious. Dan needed a break. Once he cut his hours back, his grumpy side disappeared. He and Trisha immediately were better. You see, it was his fatigue that caused his negative feelings. Expressing those negative feelings was never going to help. Venting can make matters much worse. Venting can make matters much worse. And we see it everywhere. People that vent, they just constantly vent. It doesn't do nothing but make matters much worse. Okay? Um, he needed a better option, which for him was to cut back his workload. So that could go for a lot of you. A lot of you guys. If you're working hard, if you're working a lot, if you're always doing something, you're always busy, cut back some of that stuff. Cut back some of it. Because stress induced fatigue, that there it causes a lot of the negativeness. Oh, excuse me. The negativeness coming out of you. So, try cutting back. Um let's see. You will experience immediate results once you have started using the 80-20 rule. Your partner will notice that seven times that your partner will notice the times when you do not call them out on their infractions. They will think to themselves, normally he would have pitched a fit when I did that, but he did not say anything. He is trying harder, so I am going to try harder. That is how you are going to be able to reset your relationship back on track. If you know what it does not, if you know that it does not matter what you say or do, that you are still going to get attacked by your partner, then trying does not make sense to you. So if you feel like, if you know that, you trying and you trying to get back on track, but you know, if you know that whatever you say or do is still you're still gonna get attacked by your partner, um, trying doesn't make sense. When you let the 20% slide, your partner will feel it. They'll feel it and will be more forgiving of hurtful or aggravating behavior when you make mistakes or have infractions. Before you know it, both of you will be performing at a 90% level of satisfaction. 90% of satisfaction 90% satisfaction will easily get you a great relationship. 90%, which is great. Establishing the 80-20 rule into the daily routine of your relationship will be easier than you might imagine. You are already doing this with your friends. Think about it. As long as you are doing right by your friends at least 80% of the time, you let 20% slide. You do the 80. Let's read that again. Think about it. Think about it. You're already doing this with your friends. As long as you are doing right by your friends at least 80% of the time, you let the 20% slide. Do the 80%, the 80-20 rule with your children. As long as your children are behaving 80% of the time, you continue to feed them and put a roof over their head. When they reach the age of 12, you have to lower the bar to 60 so that you do not go crazy. That is a subject for another book. But The point is that you already know how to do this. You are simply repeating the principle in your relationship. By recalling the efforts you make in your friendship and in raising your children, you can shift this already mastered skill to your intimate relationship. Does not require discipline and practice. If you are wondering how much effort to make on developing your skills with the 80-20 rule, I would say to aim for at least an 80% to 100% effort. Aim for it. The aim for 80%. Aim for 80% to 100%. Anything from 80% to 100%, that is green. That is green. It's just like passing the class. If you make a A, B, or C, I think the grade level still works as C. You know that you passing. You're passing. You're passing. You know the class may have been a little difficult for you to get a C. So, but you pass. You're trying. You're giving an effort to try to maintain that C plus. You know, and we're doing great. So if we're going to the 90 and we're into the hundreds, well, we're doing excellent. We're doing awesome and amazing. Okay. Um. Let's see where we were. This is the same degree of effort you put into your job. It is always between 80 to 100% effort. And I noticed that on my job. That when I first got there, I was given 100, 200. Oh, excuse me, 800%. I was given 800% on my job, and it was that itself was very, very fatiguing. When I say very fatiguing, it was very fatiguing. So, um, that was very. It was tiring. Then it started falling. It fell to 80. Then it fell to 70. It fell to nearly 60. And then I was at a place where I was like, look, I got to bring this up. I got to bring this thing back up because I don't want it falling. Versus, I don't want to be fired. And I'm not, I'm to a place in my life where, I don't have the option to be fired or I don't have the option to um, be um, laid off. So, um, you know, my only option is to give 80-20%, which is in a relationship. In a relationship, you don't have the option to, fail your partner or anything like that. You have the option to improve and do better and do more. Okay? So, the same measurement fits for your parenting. You always put 80 to 100% into your children. Compared to our intimate relationship where we commonly put 60% effort or 40% effort or perhaps even less. If you have an employee making 60% effort at work, you will write them up. Same simple. um, and soon after fire them. But we expect our partner to put up with this disrespectful level of effort. See, here is the same thing. If we're steady falling to a 60% or 50% level, anything under the 80% level, then, our partner is just like that job. If we're falling down to that level at the job, then what's going to happen? You know, you're going to get fired. And, in your relationship, if you continue with the same, you're gonna you're gonna lose your wife or girlfriend or fiance or whatnot. The same as in with your children, you're gonna lose you know the you're gonna lose that connection with your children. You're gonna lose that touch with your children. The same as in your friendships, you're gonna lose your friendships and things like that. So You want to strive to continue to reach 80/20 or 80%. Okay. Assume that your partner is doing the 80/20 rule. If you can tell they are upset, yet they are not saying anything. I know that it is a good rule of thumb to never assume, but in this case, it's probably a good idea. As a therapist, I used to know, or at least think I knew, when my wife was upset. Because I love her, I would ask, "What's wrong?" She would answer back, "Nothing." But I would ask again, only to be met with the same answer. I would keep asking out of concern, but she would ultimately get aggravated with me for not leaving her alone. I hope you guys got that, because a lot of relationships go through that. Then I would get in my feelings, hurt and withdraw into a state of pout, which is common and happens. I was way too sensitive when I should have remained poised. I should have appreciated the fact that she was trying to let something go, but I wouldn't let her, which happens when we keep pushing and pushing, pushing. So here is why we have to get to the reset. We have to hit our reset button. Okay? In chapter 7, I'm going to teach you how to recognize the trigger points to most arguments. Knowing these will save you a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So that was chapter 6, and I like to pray that you are receptive and that you got a wealth of information from this chapter of the book of how to argue proof for relationships. You can go on Amazon and you can find it. You can go to his website and order it, therelationshipspecialist.com. Um, you can search on Google for his office number. Set you an appointment if you want to go in and talk with Mr. Webb. And I encourage you in relationships, especially if you're looking into marriage, to seek some counseling first, and work towards that, and continue to push that into your relationship, so you will have a better success rate into your relationship. For that, if the relationship is of God, then the relationship will succeed, because God does not put together anything for failure. So with that, I pray that you received good instructions, that you received good word, and that you're receptive to the techniques that were offered in this resource, um, and that you continue on to improve your relationships, to find better methods and ways to communicate with each other in relationships, for better ways to raise the bar. And I pray that you get to that place where you can push the reset button in your relationship, so that way you can gain everything that was lost in the relationship, and that you continue to strive for not only just the 80%, but the 90 to 100% um, for your relationship and in your relationship. So this has been Justin P. Henderson, and with One Together, marriage and relationship advice and counseling, where we strive to keeping you together. Um, until next time, our next chapter, we'll see you there.